Jimin caught Jungkook lying on camera. His reaction left fans in shock. "You're lying." The words hit the studio air like a thunderclap, cold, sharp, undeniable. Jimin's voice, usually warm and composed, now trembled with an edge that silenced the entire set. Cameras were still rolling. The interview, meant to be a light-hearted reunion special for their fans, had morphed into something else entirely. Something electric. Dangerous. Jungkook froze, his lips parted mid-sentence, a flicker of something raw flashing across his eyes, guilt, fear, maybe both. The fluorescent lights bore down on them, too bright, too real. The room smelled faintly of coffee and sweat, but all Jimin could smell was betrayal. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, but no one dared cut the feed for a split second. Everything was silent except for the whir of the live broadcast. "I'm sorry," Jungkook finally said, his voice barely a whisper, but it was too late. The fans had seen it. The lie. The fracture. And Jimin's reaction, his jaw tightening, his hand slowly curling into a fist on his lap, was already being clipped and replayed across every corner of the internet. Hours earlier, none of this had existed. The set was calm, the air filled with excitement. It was supposed to be a simple 10-year anniversary stream. No controversy. No tension. Just nostalgia and laughter. But Jimin had been watching. Listening. Piecing things together. He'd noticed the subtle inconsistencies in Jungkook's stories, details about where he'd been during their hiatus, the vague explanations, the evasive eye contact. Jimin had said nothing at first. He didn't want to believe it. Not from Jungkook. Not from the one who used to sleep with his head against Jimin's shoulder during overnight rehearsals, who used to write him long, emotional texts at 3 a.m. when the world got too loud. But the evidence had been mounting, especially after Jimin received a flash drive in an unmarked envelope 3 nights ago. Footage. Time-stamped. Audio files. Conversations he wasn't supposed to hear. And now, live in front of millions, he'd confronted it. Not for drama. Not for spectacle, but because the truth mattered. The fallout was instant. The broadcast was cut mid-sentence. Panic followed. Staff rushed in. Managers shouted. PR teams fired up damage control while hashtags exploded across Twitter and Instagram. #Jimin knows trended within minutes. Backstage, the air was suffocating. Jungkook sat in the corner, staring at his hands. He looked smaller somehow, as if the weight of the moment had folded him inward. His usual quiet confidence had drained away, leaving a boy Jimin barely recognized. "You said you were in Jeju," Jimin said, his voice low but unwavering. "I was," Jungkook replied. "No. You weren't. You were in Tokyo. With him." That last word dropped like a hammer. Jungkook's knuckles went white. He didn't deny it this time. Jimin turned away, his chest heaving, not from anger, but from heartbreak. Not romantic, no. Deeper than that. A betrayal rooted in something sacred, trust between brothers, between survivors of fame, between the few who understood what it truly cost. The silence stretched. "You could have told me," Jimin said, barely audible now. "You didn't have to lie." Jungkook looked up at him, and for a moment, his eyes glistened. "I thought I was protecting you." From what? There it was, the question that tied it all together. Jungkook didn't answer. He couldn't. Because to answer would unravel everything. Not just the lie about where he'd been, but what he'd seen, what he'd done, and what he was running from that night. Jimin couldn't sleep. He sat in his hotel room, curtains drawn, watching fan theories spiral out of control online. They had no idea how deep it went. How dark, and this was only the beginning. The silence between them. "You think this is protecting me?" Jimin's voice cracked like splintering glass. "By lying to my face in front of everyone? On camera?" Jungkook stood now, fists clenched, his shadow long against the dressing room wall. The fluorescent light overhead flickered, casting pulses across his face, illuminating the sweat at his temple. He opened his mouth to respond, but Jimin cut him off, stepping closer, his breath shallow and sharp. "Say it," Jimin hissed. "Just say it. That you went behind my back. That you knew the truth this whole time and chose to play innocent. I didn't want to drag you into this." Jungkook finally burst, the tension in his throat breaking like a dam. "You don't know what's at stake, Jimin. You think you do, but you don't. This isn't just about me. Or us. There are bigger hands in this, people watching, recording, waiting for one wrong word. Oh, now you care about words. Jimin scoffed, stepping back, bitter laughter rising in his chest. After you lied to every goddamn one of them? To me. I had no choice. That's bullshit and you know it. The silence that followed was louder than any scream. Jungkook turned away, pressing his hand to the wall as if trying to keep himself upright. He looked like a man cracking from the inside, as though holding on to too many secrets had finally taken its toll. They came to me, he said, voice hollow. Last year. After we split for the break. I was supposed to disappear. Go quiet. But they found me. Who? Jimin asked, suspicion replacing anger. Who found you? Jungkook didn't respond right away. His jaw tightened, his eyes staring into something invisible, something far away. Finally, he whispered a name, CEO Han. Jimin blinked. That's impossible. He resigned. He was framed, Jungkook said bitterly. He never left. He just went underground. And now he's pulling strings again. Quietly. Carefully. And he's using me to do it. Jimin felt the room spin. No, he said. That doesn't make sense. Why you? Why now? Because I didn't shut up, Jungkook said, voice rising. Because I kept asking questions about the accident. About Taehyung. Jimin's stomach dropped. The name hit the room like a ghost. That wasn't an accident, Jungkook continued. And I can prove it. For the first time, Jimin stepped back, visibly shaken. You're saying Taehyung's crash wasn't random? Jungkook nodded slowly. They made it look like it was. But the timing, the circumstances, it doesn't add up. And when I started digging, Han's people started showing up. Warnings. Messages. Then they offered me a deal, play along, and they'll keep the rest of us safe. You kept this from me for a year. Jimin's voice rose, incredulous. You let me believe you were off finding yourself, recovering while you were dancing for devils? I didn't want you in the crossfire, Jungkook shouted. I thought I could contain it. Handle it myself. And how's that working out for you now? Jimin's eyes were wet now, but his voice was steel. Jungkook slumped against the wall, defeated. They wanted me to discredit you. What? Jungkook met his eyes. They told me you were asking questions, too. That you were getting too close. They wanted me to steer you. Keep you busy. Keep you from digging deeper. Jimin felt as if the ground beneath him had been ripped away. So you lied to me. To protect them. No, Jungkook said quickly. To buy time. I thought if I played along long enough, I could find something concrete. Something that could bring them down. Did you? Jimin asked coldly. Jungkook hesitated. Yes, he said finally. But it comes with a cost. Outside, chaos continued. News outlets speculated. Fans posted side-by-side breakdowns of Jimin and Jungkook's expressions, their body language, trying to piece together the truth. But none of them could have imagined this. Inside, the two of them sat across from each other in heavy silence, as if the air between them had solidified. Time slowed. Jimin leaned forward, eyes burning. You owe me everything now. Full transparency. No more lies. No more riddles. If we're going to face this, we do it together. Jungkook nodded, but there was something in his expression, something haunted. There's one more thing, he said. Before the broadcast, I got a message. Anonymous account. They have footage. From the night of the crash. Jimin's breath caught. Real footage? Jungkook nodded grimly. And it doesn't show what the police claimed. They sat in that revelation for a long moment. What do we do now? Jimin asked quietly. Jungkook exhaled, a shaky, tired breath. We go deeper. We expose them. Even if it costs everything. A beat passed. Then Jimin reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out the flash drive he'd received 3 nights ago. He placed it on the table between them like a loaded weapon. Good, he said. Because you're not the only one who's been digging. Outside the dressing room, their world was unraveling. But inside, something else was beginning, a reckoning, and this time, they would not run. The flash drive. You've had this the whole time? Jungkook's voice dropped to a whisper as his eyes locked on the small black flash drive sitting between them like a ticking bomb. Jimin didn't answer right away. He stared at it too, jaw tight, breathing shallow. Then he leaned back in his chair, folding his arms across his chest as if physically trying to contain the storm behind his ribs. 3 nights ago. Someone slid it under my hotel room door. No note. No explanation. Just that. Jungkook reached for it, but Jimin's hand darted out, stopping him. You don't just watch something like this, Jimin said, voice low, trembling with restraint. You brace for it. Jungkook's lips parted. You've seen it. Jimin hesitated. Enough. The silence that followed was laced with dread. Jungkook exhaled, rubbing a hand down his face. And you didn't tell me? Oh, Jimin scoffed, sitting forward now, anger rising again like a second tide. You mean the way you didn't tell me you were being blackmailed by the same people who nearly killed Taehyung? That's not the same, isn't it? Jungkook slammed his palm on the table, eyes blazing. I was trying to protect you. No. Jimin's voice shook the walls now. You were trying to protect your own guilt. You knew they were watching you, and you still played the puppet while the rest of us were left in the dark. I had no choice. Jungkook stood, his voice thundering now. If I didn't cooperate, they would have gone after Namjoon next. He was getting close too, you know that. They sent him the same kind of warning. That's why he left. That's why he disappeared. Jimin froze. What? He didn't go abroad for a project. He went into hiding. He was scared. We all were. You're just the last one to realize how deep this thing runs. Jimin stared at him, betrayal etched into every line of his face. You're telling me, all of you knew? Jungkook's face crumbled. We didn't want you dragged into this. You've been through enough already, Jimin. But Jimin's fury had shifted now, ice where there was once fire. Don't pretend like you know what I've been through. You weren't the one who sat with Taehyung's mother when the doctors said he might never walk again. You weren't the one who watched his body break while the rest of the world kept dancing. Jungkook looked away, swallowing hard. Play the drive, Jimin said. You need to see it. Jungkook inserted the flash drive into the laptop, trembling in his hands. The screen flickered, then went black. Then, grainy footage, time-stamped, surveillance camera angle. A dark road. Rain pelting the windshield of a moving car. Headlights. Music, muffled, distant. Then, another car. Black. Waiting on the shoulder. Lights off. Taehyung's vehicle came into view. The footage slowed, frame by frame, then the black car moved. No skid. No warning. Just a sudden, precise swerve, impact, metal on metal. A flash of sparks. The camera shook, then static. Jungkook blinked. That wasn't an accident. Keep watching, Jimin whispered. The next clip played. Same timestamp. Different angle. A man in a trench coat stepping out of the black car. Limping. Gloved. He approached Taehyung's wreckage. Knelt. Reached in, then he looked up. Right into the camera. His face partially covered, but oh my god, Jungkook said, breathless. You recognize him, Jimin said. Not a question. Jungkook sat back slowly, shaking his head. No. No, this can't be right. That's Hyun-do, Jimin said. Han's former head of security. The one who died 3 years ago. He was buried, Jungkook whispered, or someone was. They stared at the frozen frame on screen, the glint of the man's watch, the scar on his cheek, the dead stare that cut through the grainy lens like a blade. Jungkook stood, pacing now, hair in his fists. We can't keep this. If they know we have this, they already know, Jimin said. Jungkook turned to him, pale. How? Jimin pulled out his phone, handed it over. A text thread. Unsaved number. All caps. You're digging too deep. Stop now. Or his next. Below that, a photo. Jungkook's blood ran cold. It was Hoseok. Outside his dance studio. Smiling, unaware. Taken from across the street. They're watching all of us, Jimin said. This goes higher than we thought. We need to go to the police, Jungkook said, but even as he said it, the words felt naive. And tell them what? Jimin snapped. That a ghost driver tried to kill Taehyung and now the rest of BTS is being hunted. Do you know how insane that sounds? Jungkook sat down again, defeated. What do we do then? Jimin leaned forward, deadly calm. We use it. Leak it. Anonymously. If the world sees this before they can bury it, they'll lose control of the narrative. They'll come after us. They already are. Jungkook looked at Jimin, then really looked. The man in front of him wasn't the soft, gentle Hyung the world knew. He was steel. Fire forged in silence. He had been hurting, yes, but now he was ready. Are you sure? Jungkook asked. Jimin nodded. No. But I'm done being afraid. Jungkook exhaled. Then nodded. Okay, he said. Let's burn them. The next hours were a blur. Secured drives, burner accounts, digital masks. They uploaded the footage to a dead drop site. Scheduled the release. Timed for midnight, Seoul time. And then, they waited. As the clock ticked, Jimin stared out the window at the Seoul skyline, shimmering in the distance. Jungkook sat beside him, tense but quiet, and then, from the shadows of the hotel hallway, a sound. A footstep. Then another. Jimin turned. His eyes narrowed. Jungkook stood slowly, every muscle tight. Another knock. Not on their door. The one next to it. A pause, then a voice. Jimin. We need to talk. A voice he hadn't heard in over a year. Jimin's heart stopped. It was Taehyung. The ghost who knocked. The hallway was thick with silence, as if the air itself were holding its breath. Jimin's pulse hammered in his ears. He didn't move. Couldn't. His body was rooted to the carpeted floor, as though the sound of that voice had stripped away every sense of reality. He clung to. Jungkook's eyes were wide with disbelief, mouth ajar, chest rising and falling like he'd just run a mile. That's not possible, he whispered. Jimin took one cautious step toward the door. Then another. He reached for the handle, fingers trembling. Wait, Jungkook said, grabbing his wrist. What if it's not him? What if this is another game? Jimin yanked his arm free without a word. He opened the door. And there he was, Kim Taehyung, alive, bruised, thinner, walking with a cane, but alive. He stood under the dim hallway light, casting a long, ghost-like shadow into the room. His eyes, once warm with mischief and music, now burned with something darker, like he had seen too much, lost too much, and come back with pieces missing. Are you going to let me in? Taehyung said softly, or are we just going to stand here pretending none of this happened? Jimin stepped aside. Taehyung limped into the room, slow but steady. Every move he made was filled with pain, but he wore it like armor. Jungkook stared at him like he was hallucinating, taking in every changed feature, every scar visible under the collar of Taehyung's shirt. Jesus Christ, Jungkook muttered. You're real. Taehyung offered a bitter smile. Barely. Jimin shut the door and turned to him. We thought you were dead. You're not the only ones, Taehyung said. That was the idea. He sat down at the edge of the bed with a soft grunt of pain. His cane clattered to the floor. He ignored it. His gaze shifted between them, calculated, searching. You leaked it, he said. The footage. I saw the drop go live 20 minutes ago. Jimin narrowed his eyes. How do you know that? Because I've been waiting for someone to finally fight back. Taehyung reached into his jacket and pulled out his own flash drive. He held it out. Jimin didn't move. This has the audio, Taehyung said. From the night of the crash. My mic was still live. They forgot to wipe it. Jungkook stepped forward, cautiously. Who is they? We know Han was behind the cover-up. But who did this to you? Taehyung looked up at him, tired but firm. It wasn't just Han, he said. He's just a puppet now. The real hand behind all of this is someone we trusted. Someone who stood on stage with us. Jimin's breath caught. No, I didn't want to believe it either, Taehyung said. But it was Seokjin. Jungkook stepped back like he'd been punched. No, he said. No. That's insane. Jin, his family. He couldn't. Taehyung's face was stone. I heard his voice, Jungkook. On the comms. Telling them where I'd be. Telling them to make it look like a malfunction. Telling them to make sure I couldn't speak again. Jimin sat down, head in his hands. No. This can't be right. Jin, he was the one who cried the hardest in the hospital. He held your hand for hours when you were unconscious. We all saw him. Taehyung nodded. He played the part well. Jungkook began pacing, hands in his hair, muttering to himself. But why? Jimin finally asked, lifting his face. Why would he betray us? Money, Taehyung said. Power. Maybe fear. I don't know. But he's not the man we thought he was. The Jin I knew would have died before letting this happen. Whoever this is now, he's dangerous. Jungkook turned suddenly. He knows we leaked it. Taehyung nodded slowly. I'm sure he does. A loud bang rattled the door. They all froze. Another bang. Then a voice, cold, robotic, through a speaker system. This is your final warning. Surrender the drives. Stop the leak. Or the next one to disappear won't be so lucky. Jimin moved quickly, pulling the laptop from the table, yanking out the flash drive, and stuffing it into his pocket. Bathroom, he whispered to Taehyung. What? Get in the bathroom. Hide. Taehyung opened his mouth to protest, but Jimin shoved him. Now. Taehyung limped into the bathroom. Jimin shut the door behind him and looked at Jungkook. We can't run, Jungkook said. No, Jimin agreed. We make them come. Outside, the hallway fell silent again. Then, boom, the door was kicked open. Black-clad figures poured in, faces covered. No weapons, just strength, precision. One grabbed Jimin. Another slammed Jungkook into the wall. But neither fought. They waited. The man who followed them in was clean-cut, in a crisp white shirt. No mask. No subtlety. It was Jin. He looked around, expression unreadable, then closed the door behind him. His eyes met Jimin's. You should have listened, Jin said softly. You had one chance to let this go. Jungkook stared at him, chest heaving. How could you? Jin smiled faintly. You think you know what this is about, but you don't. I didn't betray you. I saved us. You'll understand one day. No, Jimin said, voice low. I understand now. You chose control over truth. And that makes you the enemy. You leaked footage, Jin said. Fine. But the war hasn't even started yet. Then his gaze shifted slightly to the bathroom door. He stepped toward it. Jimin moved in front of him. Don't, Jimin said. Jin smiled. He's alive. Impressive. But that won't last. Jungkook stepped beside Jimin. You'll have to go through us. Jin's smile faded. You forget who taught you to fight. Jungkook's lip curled. And you forget who taught me not to give up. The three of them stood, hearts pounding, breath shallow, as the bathroom door slowly creaked open. Taehyung stepped out, his cane in one hand. A pistol in the other. He pointed it straight at Jin's heart. No more running, Taehyung said. This ends now. The bullet between brothers. Drop your weapon, Jin, Taehyung said, voice icy calm, the pistol steady in his trembling hand. Jin didn't flinch. Didn't even blink. Instead, he looked at the barrel pointed at him the same way he used to look at microphones before a sold-out stadium, utterly fearless. You're not going to shoot me, Tae, Jin said, walking slowly toward him. That's not who you are. Then maybe, Taehyung said, tightening his grip, you don't know me anymore. The room buzzed with tension so thick it hummed in the walls. Jungkook's chest rose and fell with quick, shallow breaths. Jimin stepped in front of the door, subtly placing himself between Jin's men and Taehyung. The pistol never wavered. I should have died that night, Taehyung said. You made sure of it. I made sure you survived, Jin countered, his voice low and coiled with intensity. Don't twist the truth. I heard you, Taehyung hissed. Your voice. Giving orders. Giving them my location. You heard what they wanted you to hear, Jin said. They spliced my voice. Manipulated it. Used it to make you turn against me. That's a lie, Jimin snapped. You think we're that naive? No, Jin replied. I think you're desperate for someone to blame. And I'm the easiest target. Taehyung's finger moved ever so slightly on the trigger. You let them do this, he said. To us. To me. You watched me burn. Jin took another step. The muzzle of the gun was now inches from his chest. I never wanted this. But you all forced my hand. The moment we got too big, too powerful, do you know what kind of enemies we made? Do you know the threats I got? The price of keeping you all alive? Alive. Jungkook barked a bitter laugh. You call this living? We're hiding in hotel rooms, bleeding secrets. Our family is scattered. Our fans think we're on vacation. And our leader, the one who used to tell us we were stronger together, has become the one tearing us apart. Jin's eyes darkened. You think I enjoyed this? You think I wanted to be their middleman? Then why not come to us? Jimin asked. Why not trust us? Because I couldn't risk it, Jin said, and something broke in his voice. If even one of you cracked under pressure, they would have killed all of us. You don't know what they're capable of. What I've had to do to keep them at bay. You're not protecting us, Taehyung said. You're protecting yourself. I sacrificed more than you'll ever know. Jin exploded. While you were in that hospital bed, I was negotiating with men who kill without blinking. I had to make choices that tore me apart. But I made them. For you. Bullshit, Taehyung growled. You made them for control. For power. You sold your soul and called it loyalty. The tension snapped like an overstretched string point. One of the black-clad guards stepped forward. Jungkook reacted instantly, grabbing the man's wrist and twisting it hard. The man groaned, dropping to his knees. The others moved in, but Jimin was already on the second guard, slamming him against the wall with a precision that came not from strength but from necessity. Taehyung didn't move. His gun never left Jin. You move, he said, and this ends with blood. Jin raised his hands, calm, but calculating. Then do it. Pull the trigger. Jimin froze, Jungkook stilled, even the remaining guards hesitated, watching. Taehyung's eyes welled. His voice cracked. I trusted you. I loved you like a brother. And I still am, Jin said, softer now. But sometimes, brothers lie. To keep the other alive. No, Taehyung whispered. Not like this. His hand trembled. His body shook, and then he lowered the gun. Jin exhaled slowly, like a man stepping off a ledge and finding solid ground. But Taehyung wasn't done. You're going to help us bring them down, he said. You're going to give us names, files, everything. Or the next time I aim this thing. He raised the pistol again, not to Jin's chest, but to the camera in the corner of the ceiling. I won't miss. He pulled the trigger. The camera exploded in a burst of sparks. Jin flinched. For the first time. We're not your pawns anymore, Jimin said, wiping blood from his mouth. We're done playing. The guards were subdued. The laptop, flash drives, and burner phones were packed. Jin stood in the wreckage of the room, breathing hard, surrounded by the team he once led, broken but alive, united again, not by fame, but by truth. He looked at them with something close to regret. Or you really think you can win this war? He asked quietly. No, Jungkook said. But we're not running from it anymore. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. Inside, the past stood in ruins and the real war was just beginning. The war room, the warehouse, was silent except for the low hum of the server racks and the quiet buzz of the fluorescent lights overhead. It sat just outside Seoul's city limits, abandoned on paper, wired in reality. Jimin had chosen the location himself, an old rehearsal space buried under layers of false company names and dead-end contracts. This was where they would stage their resistance. Where the truth would finally find its voice. Jungkook typed furiously at the laptop, decrypting Jin's hard drive, his fingers trembling not from fear, but from something far sharper, rage. Taehyung sat across from him, one hand clutching his ribs, the other gripping a blood-stained towel. His leg throbbed from the night before. He hadn't slept. Neither had Jimin. Jin sat by the far wall, handcuffed to a pipe, silent. They had let him come with them, but only as a prisoner. You're quiet, Jimin said to him, not looking up from the papers spread out before him. Not going to try another speech? Jin gave a humorless smile. I figured you'd appreciate a break from the lies. Jungkook scoffed. You really think you're being noble now? No, Jin said. But I think deep down you know it's not black and white. You needed me alive. And now you need what I know. And the people you sold us out to? Taehyung asked. Do we need them too? Jin's jaw clenched. I never sold you out. I made a deal. They wanted one of us, just one, to control. I offered myself. It was the only way. You chose to be the leash, Jimin said coldly. I chose to keep the rest of you from getting killed, Jin snapped. Don't twist it into heroics or villainy. I did what I had to do. Taehyung looked away, his eyes dark. You left me to die. And you think that didn't kill me? Jin's voice cracked for the first time. You think I slept at night after that? You think I didn't hear your voice every time I closed my eyes? Jungkook turned the screen toward them. We have something. They all looked up. The screen showed a directory encrypted files, all labeled with codenames, initials, dates. What is this? Taehyung asked. Everything Jin collected. Or at least what he didn't delete, Jungkook said. There's surveillance logs. Meeting transcripts. Audio recordings. Jimin leaned in. Play something. Jungkook clicked a file. The speakers crackled. Then, a voice. Mail. Cold. Calculating. Let them go public. We'll discredit them before the public can blink. The moment one of them speaks, we leak the soul file. Burn their legacy. Destroy their credibility. Another voice, familiar. Korean, but with a Western edge. Do we take them out? Not unless they give us a reason. Taehyung's face went pale. That's him. Who? Jimin asked. Taehyung stared at the screen. Senator Minute. Jin let out a slow breath. I told you it goes higher than Han. Jungkook's fists tightened. That's government. This is bigger than the company. It's political. They've been using us, Jin said, quietly. 4 years. BTS wasn't just a global sensation. It was a tool. A weapon of influence. Our faces, our voices, we shaped narratives. Calmed chaos. Distracted the world when they needed silence. Jimin turned to him. And you just let them? Jin looked down. What else could I do? Say no and disappear like the others? Taehyung stood up, wincing. We have to go public. With all of this. The files, the recordings, everything. And what happens when they make us look crazy? Jimin asked. You know how easily they can manipulate footage. Shift headlines. Fabricate stories. We don't give them time, Jungkook said. We go live. Ourselves. No filter. No handlers. Through what? Jimin asked. They've already got eyes on our socials, our phones, our managers. They'll shut us down before we even hit record. Jin spoke then, voice quiet but deliberate. There's one platform they can't touch. Not yet. We used it during our early days, back when we had full control. He looked at Jungkook. Bangtan Vault. Jungkook blinked. That hasn't been touched in years. Exactly, Jin said. Which means it's clean. Still under RM's domain. Still secure. Taehyung looked at Jimin. You think he'd help us? Jimin hesitated. If he's still out there. If he hasn't been turned, too. I trust Namjoon, Jungkook said. He vanished to protect us. He wouldn't have done that if he was compromised. Jimin exhaled. Then we find him. And we bring this whole thing down. The next few hours were chaos, contacts were burned, calls encrypted, routes planned. Jin finally gave them access to an old emergency contact list, people they hadn't spoken to in years. Old friends. Loyal ones. People who had disappeared from the public eye but never stopped watching. The list led them to a bookstore in Busan late at night. The front was closed, the lights dim, but the door was unlocked. Inside, the shelves were filled with dust-covered poetry books and rare vinyls. In the back, a small staircase led downward into a cellar packed with antique recording gear, a generator, and maps with red pins scattered across them. And in the center of it all, sitting on a stool, writing in a leather-bound notebook, was Namjoon. He looked up. And his eyes filled with something that none of them had seen in months. Hope. Close the door, he said. Then, to Jin, you've got a lot to answer for. I know, Jin replied. Namjoon stood. But right now, he said, looking at the others, we've got a war to win. The last broadcast. The door to the cellar closed with a soft click, and for a moment, the silence between them was heavier than everything they had survived. Namjoon stood still, arms crossed, eyes scanning each of them. Taehyung, limping and bruised but upright. Jungkook, guarded, eyes flickering with fire. Jimin, unreadable, carved in cold resolve. And finally, Jin. Namjoon's stare lingered on him the longest. You knew, he said flatly. All this time. And you chose silence. Jin didn't argue. Didn't defend. I did, he said. And I'll carry that. Namjoon let the moment hang, then he walked past them, pulled back a heavy curtain, and revealed a wall of monitors. Old, analog, patched together with more instinct than engineering. One by one, the screens blinked to life. Static. Then clarity. A hidden server, a clean stream, a backup network tied to the long-abandoned Bangtan vault. "We have 10 minutes before they trace us," Namjoon said, his voice all leadership now. "We do this raw. No edits. No handlers. No PR. We go live." Jungkook asked. Namjoon nodded. "We go live." Taehyung eased himself into a chair. "I'll start." "Are you sure?" Jimin asked. "They nearly killed you last time." Taehyung looked up, a spark in his eyes. "Which is exactly why they don't expect me to speak now." Namjoon began the countdown. Cameras adjusted. Lights warmed. Jimin stared into the lens. Not with fear. With fury. Jungkook stood beside him, hands on the table, his stance solid. Jin, for the first time, stepped out of the shadows. He stood behind them, silent, no longer the face of betrayal but of penance. Namjoon raised his hand. 3, 2, 1. The feed went live across the world. Fans received the notification. Bangtan Vault. Live transmission. It was like waking a sleeping army. Taehyung leaned forward. His voice, when it came, was quiet but absolute. "My name is Kim Taehyung. And I was supposed to die last year." The screen flashed images, unedited, real, horrifying. Surveillance of the crash. The voice recordings. A glimpse of the faceless men behind the blacked-out vehicles. The voice of Senator Minute, orchestrating from a distance. Then came Jungkook, detailing the manipulation, the threats. Jimin, exposing the corruption, the betrayal of their art, their message. Namjoon stepped in next, unraveling the network of handlers and the deals made behind every concert, every press conference. And then, "Jin, I betrayed the people I loved most. But I did it thinking I could protect them. I was wrong. I let fear turn me into something I can't forgive. But today, I step forward not to excuse, but to reveal the truth. All of it." Tears streamed silently down his face. The stream ended 38 minutes later. No outro. No logo. Just a message: "The truth belongs to you now." Within minutes, it exploded. The fandom didn't shatter, it mobilized. They began connecting the dots, surfacing old footage, digging through interviews, tracing the patterns that had long gone unnoticed. They translated the confessions, clipped the video, and spread it across every platform known to the internet. The government tried to suppress it. Too late. Within hours, global journalists were outside the ministry. Investigations launched. Senator Minute disappeared. Han's name was scrubbed from every company site, but not before screenshots went viral. The industry held its breath, and BTS, those who remained, vanished again, but this time, by choice. No stage, no lights, no screaming crowds, just 6 men. Somewhere quiet, watching the world change because they finally spoke. Jin was the last to leave the warehouse. He paused in the doorway, turned back, and looked at the empty room that had once been the war room. He left behind his ID badge. His contract. His name outside. The sky was turning gold. Jimin waited for him at the car, leaning against the hood. "You coming?" he asked. Jin nodded slowly. "Yeah," he said. "No more lies?" Jin met his eyes. "Not ever again." And they drove off into the rising light, not as idols, not as fugitives, but as men who had chosen truth over survival. The world would remember the scandal, but history would remember the broadcast, and fans, they would remember the moment their silence became a roar.